You were a clerk for Justice Scalia, and a lot of the program today and a lot of our coverage at Breitbart.com for the next several days will be a tribute and his legacy. But he was also someone who had this big personality. He was he wrote beautifully. He was funny. Could you give us some insight into what he was like as a man?
Sure. He was a very gregarious, joyful person who would have his ups and downs, who would snap out of his downs pretty quickly. He loved vigorous argument. He always struggled to get cases right. You could actually watch him. His very expressive face. You could see him as he worked his way through a challenge until he got to the aha moment and mastered it. He had a wonderful, wonderful laugh. I'll definitely miss that tremendously. He was very challenging. It was intimidating to put the first draft of an opinion before him, but it was also remarkable to see how he could take the draft you gave him and rework it, fashion it so it clearly reflected his own distinctive writing style, and make it better, much better. So I learned a tremendous amount from him. He was a great mentor and obviously a great judge.
This is Breitbart News. Sunday, we're on with Ed Whalen. He's the president of the Ethics and Public Policy Center. He's a former clerk for Justice Antonin Scalia, who died yesterday, or his passing was announced yesterday at the age of 79. 9 children, 35 grandchildren. But one thing that he did leave was, I think, a legacy of inspiring a lot of young jurists who looked up to his originalist perspective of the Constitution. Could you speak to his impact on the legal community in general, in terms of the way he inspired young people or other people who aspired to have careers in that field?
Absolutely. Through the 1960s and 1970s, the Warren Court and the Burger Court had fallen into a completely unprincipled decision-making, sort of living constitutionalism, where the Constitution means whatever 5 justices say that it means. Justice Scalia and Judge Bork in the 1980s worked to revive the traditional approach to the Constitution, which has been branded originalism. The elementary concept that the words of a statute or of a constitutional provision mean what they were understood to mean when they were adopted. Now, we see the elementary common sense of that proposition when we have debates over, for example, what the natural-born citizen requirement means. Everyone looks back to try to figure out what does it mean at the time it was adopted. And that same approach is the one that Justice Scalia recognized should apply to the law generally. And he, with his distinctive verve and perseverance, worked hard over the years to promote that view. He blazed a trail that many others have followed in. His textualist approach is in many respects dominant now, though of course some justices and judges would deviate from it when it doesn't get them to the results that they want. But he really transformed the way the Supreme Court generally approaches statutory and constitutional issues. Now, there's still an awful lot of living constitutionalism, as we see from major cases, but there used to be no rival. There now is a clear rival, and that's largely because of Justice Scalia.
I agree with that. Just from an outsider's perspective, it seems like he was one of the voices in the wilderness, standing up against the seemingly pervasive left-wing intellectual class that we have in this country now. So, what did we lose, Ed Whalen? What do you think is going to be the impact of his passing on our legal system in America?
Well, most immediately, of course, we've lost a great justice, whom we hoped had many more years in him. Obviously, those of us who knew him and admired him and loved him have lost someone very dear to us. That's obviously especially true of his wonderful wife Maureen and his family. And of course, in the particular political context in which the Supreme Court finds itself, we are at risk of really losing the Supreme Court and losing the Constitution. And for all those now who graciously celebrate Justice Scalia's legacy while disagreeing with his jurisprudence, if President Obama has another appointee to this court, we are going to have an entrenchment of the left on constitutional issues for the next generation or so, and a great deal will be lost on a whole range of issues in a way that might never be recoverable. So the timing is terrible, and it presents a real challenge. What judicial conservatives need to hope we can do is ward off a replacement during this year, win the presidency with a good, strong president in November, and keep the Senate in the hands of Republicans so that the next president can get confirmed a number of good justices, and we can start repairing the damage that's been done to the court.
This is Breitbart News Sunday. I'm Alex Marlow. My guest has been Ed Whalen. He's the president of the Ethics and Public Policy Center. Mr. Whalen, where else can people find you online and follow what you're doing?
Well, thanks for asking, Alex. I run the website of the Ethics and Public Policy Center is eppc.org. In addition, I regularly blog at National Review Online's Bench Memos blog. So I encourage folks to follow my work there if they're interested. I also am active on Twitter. You can find my handle there.
Ed Whalen, and that's Ed Whalen, EPPC. That's for Twitter as well.